This morning, I'm going to take you along with me to another community store in Minnesota. This time we're in Crystal, Minnesota. And the last video I did was a community thrift that was in Minnetonka. And when I walked in, the best word I could describe it as was like a big hug. This store is a big hug from Grandma. It literally, Grandma volunteers here. And the pricing is back to the good old days. Saw the nicest exchange between Grandma, who works there, and a shopper. And what happened was the woman came up to pay, and she asked, the woman behind the counter asked, did you plug it in? Does it work? And then I heard her ask again, and she could tell that the woman didn't speak English. So Grandma got out her cell phone, and I could see her flipping through her phone to find the translator app. And I watched her speak into the phone and ask if she checked out to make sure that the item was plugged in and working before she purchased it. And she spoke that into the phone, turned it around, showed it in Spanish to the person buying, and the woman shook her head, yes. Okay, it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. The store was crowded. It was a really lovely experience. Let me show you. Today we're heading into Legacy Thrift, which is located in Crystal, Minnesota. Legacy Thrift used to be known as Bibles for Missions. And the first thing I saw when I walked in were these greeting cards. And I don't know, I don't have a feeling for how they get their cards, but the prices, I mean, this is how you remember back in the day when you could find greeting cards that weren't $4.99 at Target? So they had a huge selection right as you walk in of greeting cards. And those look to be, new, first run. They are set up that way. They had a cassette area that was all broken down into different genres. The books were, there was a plethora of really good books. And yes, I did search for that Martha Stewart entertaining book. Each time I go in now, I'm going to be on the hunt for that Martha Stewart entertaining book, the signed copy that goes for so much money. So they had of course, a lot of Bibles. And I don't know if it's true or not. One of my viewers told me that they know and have seen that the Goodwill throws their Bibles away. Now, I know I've purchased Bibles at the Goodwill bins, but I don't, personally, in my opinion, you shouldn't throw away any religious books. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. But there was a plethora, of course, of them here because they were formerly known as Bibles for Missions. So their mission is raising money for ministries throughout the world. So I understood, I went on their website and saw when they changed hands. Look at the prices. It's like a small town, back in the day thrift store that once I get through this video with you, you'll see they have antiques and beautiful antiques. And again, I went online and learned more about it, that it's all volunteer run. And it really felt finally that it was a thrift store that had items that were donated. Look at the prices. Items that were donated that were just going back out in the community. They don't care if you're a reseller. They want to support you if you want to shop this way, no matter who you are. What a concept look at, that's beautiful. What a concept for a thrift store that it has donated items. This store was huge. I had a great time poking around at all the vintage hard goods that I love so much. I was thinking, that was that Ray Dunn. It wasn't, but that had that look of that vintage Ray Dunn, which you can do quite well with if you find the original pieces, not the kind you can find at Marshall's. But I went online and I looked at what this thrift store is all about, and it sounded like, I read it, they opened in the 90s, the early 90s, and there's now 15 different locations, and they give, I believe it said $4 million annually to partners in this ministry around the world. So there you go. A thrift store that gives back to the community, and in this case, to missions around the world. So love this, and I think they've just, oh, Chi-Chi's. I feel like, is that the restaurant we're going to get back in Minnesota, Chi-Chi's, or is that local to Minnesota? I was just reading about it. I'm thinking it was Chi-Chi's. The store had a ton of shoppers, old and new alike. There were moms and kids, and there was a lot of volunteers putting out a lot of inventory. So I'm going to keep this particular one in mind. I don't donate anymore to the Goodwill. I choose to donate to the local community thrift stores. I did a video on Able Light. It's a little far out of the way for me. This was stunning. A little in the price. It's amazing. A little out of the way for me. I will drive by 5 Goodwills in order to get to this place, but now here, not quite close to where I live either, but this, in my opinion, is a really nice place to get rid of the things and donate the things that you're no longer using. We were here on a Wednesday, in the middle of the day, and the parking lot was absolutely jammed. We had to drive around a couple times and find a place to park. I'm still not to the point where I can film inside of these stores. I'm not certain if all the stores really want you to film, so I'm not super comfortable talking and filming at the same time. I like to bring home my footage and piece it together and then just do like a voiceover to talk about what I found. Utensils, 49 cents, 39 cents, flatware, one price for everything, right? It's like a church rummage sale that just keeps filling back up. It's like a fill-a-bag sale. And when I was near the cash register, I was hearing the pricing. The workers were saying that'll be 79 cents. It's like you truly step back in time. I spent quite a bit of time looking and turning over so many of these hard good items. That's where my favorite things are. I did not pick up anything to resell today. I was just more on a fact-finding mission. Here are those single teacups that I've talked about. I've grouped them in random mix and match teacups and have done fairly well selling them on eBay and Poshmark. So I retired a couple years ago, and I don't know if I'd call myself a full-time reseller, but I continue to sell. After I retired, I added Poshmark to my my sites that I sell on. We also sell on Facebook Marketplace. But what happened shortly after I retired I didn't retire. I'm still working, but I retired from a 9-to-5. And shortly after, I discovered Rover, the Rover app. And so Brian and I also walk dogs on the Rover via the Rover app, which I have found to be such a treat. So I do that part-time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we do that. And then eBay and Poshmark fit in perfectly to a easy schedule that's really flexible. The thing I like about thrifting like this and reselling is at my age, you don't age. Oh, this was stunning. This was stunning. These were marked a little higher. They deserved to be marked a little higher. This was a fantastic handmade blanket. That was stunning. The thing that I like about reselling, I'm not going to age out of it. I can do it as long as I want. I can do it the amount of time I want. It's flexible. I can do it in the morning. I can list and put up listings, and not so much photographing. I like to do that during the day. I have 1-day shipping on my eBay store, so I do need to do that the next day. But with this dog walking, we just build that in and we head to the post office, and then we go on to walk dogs. 10 to 2 typically, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but then we'll pick up others if we can. Craft items. If you're a crafter, they had so much to pick from. You could, again, just like Able Light, the video I did, you should take your time, spend a lot of time here because it was so well done, so well stacked, and it was literally like stepping into grandma's house. And the items were, there was quality vintage, but then in the shoes, I did find some decent name brand shoes. Here's an example of these Tevas, and $5.99. They would be $49 at the Goodwill. So the pricers seemingly understood. Here's a pair of Crocs. The pricers seemingly understood the nicer quality, but they weren't going to make it unaffordable for all of these people that are choosing to shop secondhand, whether you just prefer it for personal reasons, whether you can't afford it, whether you just think it's good for the environment and you want to shop here, or you're a reseller. But they had one blanket price for all of their items. I mean, it just, the men's suits, what? That's the price. And I didn't spend a lot of time looking at tags, but it was, no matter what the label said, you could buy a suit for one price. What if you're newly entering the job market? What if you can't afford to buy a suit right now? It's a fantastic price. I was trying to learn more about the store, and I did go online and learned about that Leave a Legacy. That was a nice mission that they had. I just, when I came home, look at the prices. When I came, it's shocking to me for all of the Goodwills that I've been in, that this is actually like a thrift store. Again, I went online to learn about the mission. I like to, especially if I'm donating my items, there was a Target brand, very new, Under Armour. So they did have newer items. It wasn't just antiques and vintage. But if I'm going to donate now, I've decided that I want to make sure it makes a difference and it goes to a good cause. So when I am going to these thrift stores in our community, I'm going home and reading about them and finding out about their missions and choosing better places to donate, because I am just, can you tell, just over the Goodwill. I follow a lot of resellers on Instagram, and I saw a post today about Goodwill. They called it Greedwill. And they were, as of January 2025, they were doing away with their discount for seniors and their discount for military and all of those programs they were doing away with. So they've lost their way. Okay, I'll stop ranting about them. Christmas items, there were so many Christmas items, just rows and rows, and something for everybody. It was fun to poke around. They had some good quality items. Again, there'll come a place around the corner here where it was truly vintage, and the items were behind glass. Their furniture, the pricing was really good. And I read some tags where it made me think they do deliver. I don't know anything about the delivery cost, but the prices made it so affordable. Again, I think about starting out in an apartment, or if you're moving to college and you have your first apartment, you're married, your first apartment. It's a great place to come. Some of the pieces, this was fantastic. But when they had a fantastic piece, they didn't make it so that nobody could have access to it. So I do know that they deliver, but I don't know the circumstances under which they deliver. Some pieces were marked, we can't deliver this. This is too big for us. So it was, I don't know, again, if it's community donations, if it's corporate donations, but look at all of the big pieces of furniture. They do a nice job. I had my eye on this stoneware set. I was wondering why it got put over here on its own. But lots of hutches. That one looked a little kind of mid-century to me. That was pretty, especially if you like to refinish, furniture. You could find some pieces here. We ended up donating our hutch, our dining room hutch and table, to Hope Chest for breast cancer. I'm going to go poke around in that store and bring you with me. It was a great store to be donating your items to. They came and picked it up. I had to pay $25 for my hutch, my table, the 6 chairs, and my grandma's china. And they came and took it. 2 men came in and took it out of our house. I could not get rid of that on my own. And there was no way I was going to give my grandma's china to Goodwill, or frankly, really any thrift. I felt bad about that just because it was handed down to my mom and then to me. And I wanted it to go back out into the world. And I just didn't trust that it would find its way to a good home if I just donated it. So I went back into that store to Hope Chest for Breast Cancer, and it was all gone. So it did find a new home. I was really pleased and only had to spend $25. They came and took it, left us a receipt, and we turned our dining room into another home office. I did a little video on some of the things that Brian and I have done since we've retired. I will put these videos I mentioned in a link below in this video. This was where the real treasures were. They were the literal antiques, and the pricing was really not bad. But they understood what was the better quality pieces, but it went on and on. So I feel like it was a thrift store mixed in with an antique store. Those are all the fishing lures. Fishing lures? No, not lures. You know what I mean. But you remember all of these? You remember from your grandma's house? So look at, it just keeps going. And so this was on the whole back side of the store. The reel, that was it, the fishing reels. The Wheaties box, I found a Wheaties box. I haven't listed it yet, but I found one at a church rummage sale. Mine was flattened. There wasn't anything in it. I need to get that listed. So the pieces were interesting and vintage and mid-century. And I always say this, but I wish I just had a little more time to shop. But I always seem to be running, especially it's a week before Christmas. So I put this in with our errands that we run. I wanted to put this stop into our day this week, and it really didn't disappoint. My mom had these, and I did sell a couple, not the food coloring, but those shilling square spices. She had those still. I don't think they were very fresh, but when I moved her out, I did know that those are collectible. And I ended up selling a couple of those tin cans of hers. But people used to, I don't know why, but my mom, I don't never believed that her spices needed to be replaced. Manuals, like boat motor manuals. I just sold one not that long ago, within the last year, for like $175. So if you could poke around in those manuals, those go for a lot. Those big cast iron pots, right? Isn't it beautiful? These items were I feel like these sewing machines were not very expensive. So this side of the store was like the antique store, but just in a thrift store pricing. They had so much spillover that here's the rest of the Christmas items. So it was a plethora of really good finds. I am going to find out how they do their furniture donations. We have a few pieces of odds and ends, not large things, but we have some things that I need to get rid of, and I would love it to come here. So this one and then the Hope Chest for Breast Cancer, those would be my two that I know about, my two favorites in the Twin Cities area for larger items, collectible items, and even your china. I was surprised nobody really uses china. I didn't know what to do with the china, and I posted on one of those Instagram accounts, does anyone know? And they asked me if we had a charity cancer type shop in our community, and we did, and I didn't even think of that. So my advice to you is, if you're trying to get rid of something a little more special, a little larger, see if you have those kind of shops in your community. I wouldn't have thought of that. I didn't have that on my radar, and I'd actually been in that Hope Chest store before and did not think to utilize them, and then was so surprised. Oh, these plates. They again would have been, $12.99 a piece. I was pleasantly surprised that they came and got it. And what I did was took a photo of it and emailed the photo of the china and the hutch and the table and chairs. And then they made the determination if they would come and get it. And two large men with straps, came into the house and got it out of the house in minutes. It was the best deal ever. So if you're looking to do that and you have a, like the cancer based charity stores, it wasn't a thrift store, it was literally a store. Take a look there. Jewelry, it was good. It was all, here behind this glass. And they had some really fun pieces and watches. Those are the two ladies I'm talking about. Those were the grandmas that work here. The one on the left is the one who knew to get out her phone. Okay, there is no way. Not to say that she wouldn't know, but at her age, I was just really taken with the fact that she knew, someone taught her, she knew to get her phone out. I was talking about it in the beginning of the video, and help that woman translate, and so that she could speak to her. It was just the sweetest grandma thing. So again, like I said, the dresses were all one price, except some were individually priced. That was a fair price for that dress. It was such a sweet grandma thing to do. It just gave you the vibe that people here care about each other and care about you. And rather than, she couldn't speak English. And so rather than dismiss her as a customer, they were able to teach her. She knew enough on her own to use her phone and use the translator app so that she could communicate with her. I was just weirdly just taken with that. I just thought that was just sweet. So I love it here. I'm going to come back here. They're, again, looking for that Martha Stewart. I'll pop in a screenshot of what that goes for. But that signed Martha Stewart book. And you know what? I wouldn't feel, I'd almost rather give that back to them and tell them that you need someone to sell that for you. I had someone do that recently with Legos. Do your kids want them? My kids are in their 30s. Do your kids want them for their kids? And I didn't really. And he brought it out to show me. They're instruments, they're vintage instruments. He brought it out to show me, and I said, I can't sell this. There's too much money to be had here. I would not feel good taking this from you and then profiting. So in certain situations, it's not a good idea to make money from others that way. So I felt that way about this store. It's like, I don't know that I'd feel good about making that kind of money from this kind of store. So I think that's karma. This plate was the last thing I saw before I left, and it said, "Give me neither riches nor poverty, just feed me." What a great way to end.